Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our fourth and final parenting style video in this YouTube series, Parenting Styles and Communication Influencing Child Development. I'm really excited to talk about our last parenting style in this series. It's going to be all about authoritative parenting, and this is not to be confused with authoritarian parenting, which they both sound very similar, but they're not similar. So I still get them kind of mixed up wording wise, but it's okay. We will just learn all about this one. So, just an introduction. A parenting style is a pattern of behaviors, attitudes, and approaches that a parent uses when introducing or interacting and raising their child. The study of parenting styles is based on the idea that parents differ in their patterns of parenting and that these patterns can ultimately have a significant impact on their child's overall well-being and just child development in general. Parenting styles are distinct from specific parenting practices because they represent broader patterns of practices and attitudes that create this emotional climate for the child. So with that introduction, we will just dive into authoritative parenting. So for a definition, the authoritative, sorry, this authoritative parenting is defined as the parents are nurturing, responsive, and supportive, yet they are firm with their limits for their children. They attempt to control their child's behavior by explaining rules, discussing, and reasoning. And they listen to a child's point of view, they listen to their viewpoint, but they don't always accept it. And overall, you can just think of authoritative parenting as warm yet firm, warm and firm parenting. So let's dive into some key physical characteristics of authoritative parenting. These parents have very close and nurturing relationships with their children. There's plenty of physical and emotional affection that is being exchanged on a daily basis. These parents also set clear guidelines for their expectations that they have of their child, but they also explain their reasons associated with disciplinary actions or just actions in general. So an example of this could be giving your child a warning, hey, let's not do that. Say, what's an example? Say they are throwing their food while they're eating. Hey, let's not do that. Your food stays on the table. If you continue to throw all of your food, we're going to be all done. Explaining that consequence. And then if the action continues, enforcing that consequence and explaining again, hey, I told you if you continue to throw your food and not be eating your food, we're going to be all done. We're going to take a break. Easy as that. It's very much easier said than done, but that's the gist of it. Another key characteristic is disciplinary methods are used as a way of support instead of punishment. So examples of ways of positive punishment could be positive reinforcement, which is giving a reward for a positive action that they do to enforce that behavior to continue or to promote that behavior to continue. So by rewarding that. Behavioral role modification techniques, which you can look up. Also some skill building activities and collaborative problem solving, which we will talk a little bit more about later in this video. Another physical characteristic is that they enforce rules and consequences when rules are broken. So going back to the last example I gave on the last slide, being able to enforce rules and consequences when rules are broken and actually sticking to them, being consistent with those and not being lenient or just kind of going back on what you said that you would do. Alrighty, another set of key physical characteristics is inspiring children to be independent, but setting boundaries and limits to control their actions. So allowing children to make choices and do actions that they want to do to find their independence and their individuality, but adding limits and control to ways that can promote their safety and their well-being, even though they may not understand fully consequences of their actions, making sure to set limits that allow them to pursue what they want to pursue, but to an extent of where it's contained, if that makes sense. So they want to go, I don't know, what's an example? If they want to go outside and ride their bike around, they want to go outside the neighborhood, whatever, being able to say, hey, I get that you want to ride your bike, all of these things. How about we set a time where we can all go out as a family together, maybe outside of the neighborhood, and you can ride your bike. However, for now, let's keep it inside the cul-de-sac or whatever it may be. Just setting limits to certain actions, but encouraging them to want to do these things on their own and to want to think for themselves. Finally, serve as a role model for parents need to serve as a role model for their children by demonstrating respectful communication, problem-solving skills, and appropriate behavior in various situations. So this is a big one. Children learn behavior from what they are shown. You can teach your children all of the skills that they need to know, but at the end of the day, a lot of what they learn from home is the actions that they're going to show, I guess. So say if you're married, just really look at the relationship that you have with your partner. Look at how you are communicating to each other. Look at how you solve conflict together. Look at how you handle different situations. Although you may not know it, your children are soaking all of this information up like a sponge. If they see their parents or their family members or maybe their siblings or whoever not being respectful to each other, not collaborating together as people who love each other should work to do, then they're going to absorb that and be like, well, why am I being taught to have respectful communication, do all of these things, but that's not really what you do. So they become more self-aware and they're more self-aware than maybe you're always thinking about. So keep that in mind. Alrighty. Moving on to communication characteristics. Key communication characteristics for these types of parents. Children have input on goals and expectations set for them. Absolutely. Just parents collaborating with their children to have input on the expectations that you set for them. So if you expect your child to fold all their laundry before they put them in their basket, or you expect them to make their bed every morning, or you expect them to pick up their toys after they're done playing. Have a set conversation and just open communication about why these are things that need to be done. And if it's not working out, if it repeatedly just isn't happening, have a talk. Why isn't this goal being able to be made? Is there things that we can do together to help these goals be accomplished? Is there a bin that we can decide this bin is for all of these toys and etc. There's many different ways that you can do this, but just having them have their input in it, because maybe there's a challenge that you can't really see what they go through every time they are trying to reach these goals and they can't really get to them. All right, next, listening to the child's point of view when involved in discussions and debates. Yeah, that's kind of the similar thing. Just make sure to always be listening for what their feelings or emotions may be, because it could be surprising. You may not have thought, oh, I didn't really think of it that way. Thank you for explaining that to me. Go from there. Everything is discussed to make sure children have a chance to understand why they're being disciplined. So yeah, once again, especially with discipline, just making sure it's very clear why and the reasoning, even if you've explained it multiple times, try doing it a different way. Maybe that would make sense, or just overall giving an explanation, especially during punishment, is very important, because you don't want them to be like, they must not love me, or they're internalizing it in a different way that's not meant. So, all right, another set of key communication characteristics. Um, Frequent and appropriate levels of communication between the parent and child. This just like surface level conversation too. You want to get to know your child. Make sure there's just a lot of communication happening. With kids, I feel like it's easy. They talk all the time. Balance expectations with affection and support. So that's, yeah, another thing too, like positive reinforcement. If you have a lot of high expectations for your children, or even if they're just, I guess, things that seem like they should be baseline knowledge, or I guess we can go back to the example with making your bed every morning. Balance all of these expectations with showing them, hey, I totally saw that you made your bed this morning without me asking. And I just want you to know that that made me super happy. And I'm very proud of you for getting up and doing that. So, yeah, positive reinforcement. Patience and effort, a lot of patience and a lot of effort, and encourage independence. Once again, going back to what I was saying previously about encouraging them to do things on their own. Okay. With this style, have you done anything as a parent? Have you done any of the following? Excuse me. So you said that if you said that I know you don't want to do this, but it'll be easier once you're done and you'll have more time to play. Or anything really along these lines. Saying, what do you think about this? There again with collaboration and getting input from them and their point of view. Saying, you can do it, I believe in you, showing encouragement and support. Let's work together to find a solution. Sorry. Once again, collaborating and working together to solve a problem and working together to set expectations and goals together. Finally, offering choices. Choices is a very big one because this also allows children to find independence, but it also goes back to having limits and control on their independence, I guess, in a sense of safety and health and all of those things. So offering choices like, say we're running super behind for an appointment and your child isn't getting their jacket, getting their shoes. You've asked them multiple times. Okay, you have your child. Okay, explaining the situation. We have to go. We have 5 minutes. We need to get your shoes on and your jacket on. Which one would you like to do first? Do you want to race to put our jackets on together? Should we try to put our jackets on together standing on one foot? Should we tie our shoes in the air? Like something to make it fun, but also offer them choices that allows them to still get the task done, but you're offering them kind of their independence so they can have a say in it. And yes, this does take more time. Going back to patience and effort, it takes a lot more time. However, if this is practiced regularly, there'll just be a lot more positive results. Okay, things that authoritative parents don't do, all caps on the don't. They don't use phrases that invoke their children, such as because I said so, or you should do this, you should be doing this, yada 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 yada. That's also like if it's said on a regular basis, I understand. You should be doing your whatever, why are you doing that? Yeah, that's not really what I'm talking about. This is like things that are regularly implemented and said, I guess. So other things they don't do, threats and harsh punishments. We talked about different kinds of punishments. Using guilt or manipulation, ignoring or dismissing feelings, expressing overly controlling behavior, once again, controlled limitedly just for their safety and, whatever, but not being overly authoritarian about it. Comparing their child to others, especially this one, and ignoring individual differences, especially if you have other children, if they have siblings, not comparing your children to each other just because they both came from you or they both are your children, you're raising them, I guess, in the same environment. Parent to the child in front of you, that's very important. When you're 2-year-old child does not have the same needs that your 4-year-old child does, emotionally and physically. So just parent to the child in front of you. And making overly critical or judgmental remarks, yes, and forcing perfectionism. So these are just things that these parents with this style do not do. Let's get into impact on child development. So some positive developmental effects. I'm going to say right now there's more positive effects with this one than any other one that we've discussed in this series. Children have higher confidence and are more responsible. They're also able to better self-regulate, which leads to better social and emotional health due to being able to navigate and manage negative emotions more effectively. We also got children have a high level of academic achievement and school performance, and they develop higher self-esteem and curiosity. They also learn what is right and wrong internally, which can lead them to making considerate choices. And they tend to be more goal-oriented and learn that they're capable of accomplishing goals on their own. I did find one negative developmental effect with this one, which I guess can be, yeah, it's considered negative, I would say. Keeping to themselves because of the pressure their parent put on them to be the best. So this is in terms of like, I would say an extreme case if a parent is doing this or forcing them to be their best. This kind of goes back to forcing perfectionism. This isn't really found in this style of parenting. It's just, it was in my research and it came up, so I wanted to throw it in there because you never know. So the overall consensus with authoritative parenting is that this one overall has the best outcome with your child for child development. And overall, the children tend to be happiest and, self-confident while being goal-oriented, curious, and self-reliant. Because their parents are highly involved while respecting independence, these children learn how to have healthy relationships and attachment styles. In general, this parenting style leads to the healthiest outcomes, but it requires a lot of patience and effort and time on both parties. Since these parents also encourage independence, their children learn to accomplish their goals on their own. This results in children who grow up with higher self-esteem and learn what they're capable of accomplishing on their own, whether that be in academic or social or emotional regulating, just different circumstances like that. They learn how to deal with conflict early, and they just grow up to be resilient and self-reliant. Once again, here's the conclusion that I've put in all of my videos. I know that this one seemed as had a different, I guess, what's the word? Not narrative, but this one had an overall different vibe than the last three. This parenting style is considered to be the one that people should shoot for, the one that people should try to be. This is the healthiest one in the sense of child development and that outcome. So, I mean, in my personal opinion, this is what I want to strive to be. And I hope that either way, at the end of the day, whatever is best for you and for your child, I hope you learned something and took something away, because you can never fail from knowing too much, you know. Here's my sources again. I have a couple more things that I wanted to add in this final video. I found a couple resources that I wanted to attach in here because I understand parenting is hard. It's really hard, and you don't want to do it alone, and you want to be as prepared as you can be. So this website here I found, it has a bunch of different free online parenting courses, and it was really cool. There was like 65 options, I think, when I checked, and they're all different, which is cool. They're very unique. There was like a, excuse me, like a first aid one. There was child development, I mean, health and safety, positive parenting skills, advanced parenting skills. There's different ages. There's some pregnancy ones too. There's just a lot. And it's free. And you can get a certificate out of it. And if a certificate's not like your goal, that's obviously fine, but you're not going to go on these and not learn something. So if you're wanting to, there's that. And I like how on this website it shows how many hours it takes too, because time is money. And especially if you're a parent or you're gonna be a parent. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. The next one I found is a more general resource. It's not as much focused on parenting, but like it is at the same time. That didn't make sense. But this website has a list of places to get support. So once you go onto findhelp.org, you'll type in your zip code and then it'll like narrow down your search, I suppose. And then there's all of those options: food, food, housing, goods, transit, health, money, care, education, work, and legal. And you click on it and there's all of these resources for, I clicked on care. I think it had all sorts of care or all sorts of information about like daycare, about fostering, about um like pregnancy, stuff like that. But then there's also like food, like where you can locate different excuse me, like food pantries and um ways like deals and stuff like for restaurants in your area. And it like locates where these things are based on where you are, which I thought was just super cool. And you can personalize it by income, location, and just other personal information that you want to use. So thought I would throw that in there because I thought it was pretty cool. And overall, I just wanted to say thank you. I had a lot of fun doing all this research and learning just more information about not only, I guess, how I was raised and how my parents were, but also the parent that I would like to be. I said in my first video, I think, excuse me, that I'm a nanny and I learned so much from that experience. But I mean, it's always nice to do research and it's nice to know what's out there and what tools work and what tools don't. And oh, I like this advice, but it wouldn't work for me. Let's try something else. Like just getting information out there. And I hope that it did the same for other people. So thank you once again for watching all of these and good luck. You're going to do great.